All right. How many of you have received an email from your employer, or maybe some people in this room even are the ones that sent this email, that said something to the effect of, at our organization, Gen AI is blocked here, or the alternative, pretty please only use AI in these ways? Anybody? Anybody receive? Okay, a lot of people have, I see a lot of nods, a lot of hands. All right, this is a great example of the balance that every organization is trying to achieve of adopting AI more broadly across their workforces, but they're concerned about all of the ongoing risks. This is what we've termed the Gen AI adoption paradox, where organizations are facing risks of not being competitive, attracting new talent, with the risks of adopting Gen AI, and not just data leakage to external services, but ongoing AI compliance regulatory violations, inconsistent use, and high costs. We get to talk to organizations every single day about the challenges and how they get stuck in between this paradox. I want to share 4 consistent themes we've seen across organizations and pitfalls that organizations may fall into and some strategies to avoid them. Number 1, we're not using Gen AI. Well, the reality is you are. 75% of organizations, or 75% of users within every organization, are using AI on a daily basis. And it's also embedded in applications you may be procuring that you don't even know have AI features and capabilities. So some strategies: number 1 is get visibility to the use of AI across your organization. There are many tools and solutions to do this. And the bonus, all the data you're collecting become a use case library that can not only be a training data set for your own model fine tuning in the future, but can help inform your roadmap. And embrace bring your own AI, because if you don't, users will take the corporate data to their personal device. I've got a link to an MIT Sloan study that shows that. Pitfall number 2, we're only allowed to use AI in these ways. The number of GRC groups that I've talked to that say, oh, we can't use customer data with AI, period. Well, the reality is your policy is out of date. I've read lots of acceptable use policies. Not one of them to date has delineated public versus private models. There's a huge difference between sending your data to ChatGPT and using it in your own data center. So define public versus private in your organization, understand the impacts that has to the data security risk, and update your policies, and most importantly, enforce them. So that as you have actual business units or groups of data, define where it is acceptable to your business and the risk of your data for that to go to various different services. Pitfall number 3, we've got to catalog all of our AI use cases first before we can get started. While inventorying your systems is critical, that doesn't necessarily apply to inventorying all the ways an employee is going to use AI. We don't inventory all the use cases of email, but we have a pretty good policy as to the things you can't do with email. So you really don't need to do this to get started, because foundational models become more powerful than ever. And that means that the number 1 use case you have in your organization is enabling your users with an approved foundational model. If you go back to your definition of public versus private and your vertical and the regulations you face, that may mean a approved model is a private model versus a public SaaS service. And then let that use start to inform your strategy. Let the categorization of use by intent actually identify areas for tuning foundational models, for bringing enterprise data sources into the context to improve the ongoing day-to-day productivity of end users. And the very last number 1 pitfall that I hear constantly: we don't have a compliance risk. Maybe it's because I've cataloged all my use cases and no one uses AI. But it's actually, the reality is it's not just policies are not enough. I can't just cross my fingers and say, pretty please only use AI these ways. You've got to implement a global audit trail of public and private AI use, because that not only protects against consumer data loss, but it also forms the basis, I'm not your legal counsel, for an affirmative defense in most new AI regulations. That's a huge difference. Now, with all of that collected data, you can start to apply guardrails. What types of data sources should users be able to leverage? What types of activities should we actually stop users from accomplishing? Number 1, I don't want salespeople doing legal tasks, because that document would be legally binding if executed. So you start to constrain that use back to individual use cases and apply those guardrails appropriately. At SurePath AI, we're a platform to help implement many of these controls. We sit at a network level. We actually intercept end-user network traffic destined for consumer public services to give you that audit trail and to mitigate that data leakage. We sit at the layer between your end users and your own private model deployments to manage access controls to foundational models and fine-tuned models. And we also inject via role-based access control enterprise context data sources into user requests in real time so that they can have access to rich data and actual customized and tuned responses, but that are defined by your policies that have been enabled for those individual use cases. So thank you very much. We'd love to talk with you more. We've got some demos and would love to show you more about our platform. Thank you very much.